Good morning, everyone. It is 5 in the morning. It's 6/9/2020, the year we all lived in hindsight. So today, I bring you your governor, your current governor, your current leader. All right. So I get these updates every morning about this guy here, this Jay Inslee, this governor here, and I found a few things disturbing. Uh, I'm reading his book, Apollo's Fire. Very disturbing, very misleading. Just it didn't win any awards. Let's just say that. But here we go. Let me share with you some of my thoughts on our current governor. So he's wearing a mask. I got $5 says he put that mask on right before he got on TV. Because you don't need to show the world that. That's virtue signaling. Puts it in his pocket. Gross. Sweat back on your face. Ugh.
Sir, ready? Good afternoon. Over the weekend, we saw many peaceful protests across our beautiful state, from forts on the peninsula to Walla Walla to the Palouse to Yakima to the Rainier Valley.
Now here's something weird. I already noticed that the guy never mentioned Spokane. But if you look right here, I didn't notice. I watched this on my phone earlier. It says Spokane there. It says Seattle. That's right.
Over the weekend, we saw many peaceful protests across our beautiful state, from forts on the peninsula.
Forts on the peninsula.
To Walla Walla, to the Palouse, to Yakima, to the Rainier Valley in Seattle. Thousands of people in our state have been crying out for justice. And these footsteps in the streets, I think and I hope, are footsteps in history that can provoke us in taking big strides.
So maybe I'm just a little bit of a homer. But considering that Spokane is the second largest city in Washington, Seattle, Spokane, Tacoma. For Jay Inslee to not mention us, it's not coincidence. He doesn't care about Spokane. He just said Walla Walla because, I don't know. He's got to say something. He's got to say the Palouse. He's got to say something about the West Side, but he doesn't want to acknowledge Spokane because he doesn't want to acknowledge Spokane as the second largest city in Washington.
To fight against the systemic racism that has afflicted our communities for decades.
Okay, so everybody who knows me knows I'm not a cop lover. I'm not very big on the police. But everybody knows I'm something of a rebel lawbreaker, so that might be self-serving. Let me explain to you why it's not. The police are not, there's no systemic racism in the police. They shoot everyone. All right? Me and somebody got into this. They shoot everyone. So, but they tend to shoot unarmed African Americans more. Unarmed African Americans who are not breaking the law tend to get shot more than unarmed white people who aren't breaking the law. Right? So, I understand the black community's problems with their kids and teenagers who aren't breaking the law nor wielding a gun getting shot. That's seriously a problem. But I don't believe it's as much of a race issue as much as it is a totalitarianistic police force that's trained to shoot first. We'll get into that later.
To the protesters, I want you to know this. I hear you. Black lives matter. And because of many of these protests, many people across the country are starting to understand the real meaning of that term.
No, they're not. But anyways, the problem I have with this guy is he's pandering. He's pandering to a group over something that didn't happen in our state. So he's allowing the problems of other states to infect us over here. There's no reason what's happening in Alabama should be causing problems in our state. There's no reason what's happening in California should be causing problems in our state. There's no reason what happened to Floyd in Minneapolis, which was tragic, which was wrong, which was murder, should be affecting our state in a manner as it is, because we run our state. Now, if there's racism and prejudice going on in our state, that's our fault. That's not Minneapolis' fault. That's not Obama's fault. That's not Trump's fault. If our police force or our institutions are being prejudicial against minorities or immigrants or whoever, that's an issue for us to handle. And if it's going on in Washington State, then that's an issue with Washington State and the leadership. The leadership. Oh, right there. Oh, the leadership of Washington State. That's not Trump's fault or Obama's fault or Minneapolis' fault or Alabama's fault. Neither is what's going on in Alabama or Georgia or Minneapolis our fault or our problem. They want to make it a national problem so that they can get national money, national spotlight, and then it feeds to their totalitarianism ways. They want control of everything from the federal level. That's not America. That's not American. That's not how this is supposed to work. Okay.
This is a moment unlike anything we've seen. It's a moment to do things.
We didn't see it. This is the disconnect. People see something on TV and think they saw it. We didn't see it. We didn't see it here in the state. This didn't happen in the state. And as he mentions somebody I don't know about, which did happen in the state, why now, Jay? Because I can go through a list of things and cops who've killed people in Spokane who are all white, who are all negligently, like last summer, Spokane Valley, I'll look his name up. He was a weird meth head, right, who was unarmed, who was maybe trespassing or going along, kind of scaring normal people, which they do. And when the cops were called and showed up, he ran back to his campsite. He was unarmed. He was unarmed, and a cop shot him down at his campsite for what? Some white meth head. Oh, who cares? I cared. I don't think that was right, but nobody listens to me. Nobody cares unless it's a black life. Do only black lives matter? Because I can go off, I can list, I'm not going to do it right now, but I think I got 5 off the top of my head. Oh, how about the teenage boy? How about the teenage boy out in the valley? Sorry, valley cops are getting hit hard today. Who was hit by a valley cop doing 75 on Sprague without lights or sirens on, and he died. Where was the uproar there? A police officer was doing 75 miles an hour down the road with no lights or sirens, and I think it was dark, and he hit a pedestrian boy who was on his bike and killed him. Of course, he was white, though, so who cares, right? Not a big deal. This is racism. All right, caring about only black people's lives is racism. All right? We need there's issues in the police force that need to be addressed. But if you address them as if it's only in the black community, if you address them as if it's only in the Mexican community, if you address them as if it's a racial issue, you're going to divide the country, you're going to divide everyone, and it's going to get nasty. If I was your governor, I would be addressing this as a problem for all communities, that we need to reevaluate how we're training our police. Don't disband them. Don't fire them. This is not just some white dudes who are racist or some. This is not what's going on. It's in the training. It's in how they're trained to handle situations. Right? It's not just racism. Not to say there aren't a few cops who probably have racist tendencies or have become racist after having to deal with certain criminal elements. Because think about this. Think about this. Think about this. You're a cop. You're generally not called up to weddings and birthday parties and fun stuff. You're not called to these. They're like, hey, 911, yeah, we're having a great time here. We thought maybe a cop might have some fun here today. So could you send over a squad car and just, let a cop, experience the great things going on today? That doesn't happen. So the only time police officers are called are there's a bunch of people wrecking my shit, or there's a car wreck, blood and gore, or right. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. So, and then there's the element of criminals, white, black, Mexican, native, whatever. So when they're dealing with whites, blacks, natives, Mexicans, Japanese, Chinese, Germans, Russians, Italians, Europeans. Oh, I don't know. I can't get any more out of there. When they're dealing with criminals of every background, or they tend to have a neighborhood of a certain culture, and all they deal with are the worst of that culture, white, black, innate, right? They might get a little skewed in their thinking about that culture, which isn't good, but might be a little understandable. So, if I was your governor, I wouldn't be approaching this as if cops are evil, Black Lives Matters are angels. I wouldn't be approaching it that way. No one's angels. People suck. Black Lives Matters are people, so they suck. Cops are people. People suck, so cops suck. So this is kind of the reality we kind of have to deal with, because unless you're not a person, you probably suck too. In some way, somehow. We all suck. We all have our inequities. All right, so let's continue with this.
Things differently, to do them better, and to do them with a real commitment to change.
Okay, so that was a nothing burger. Let's rewind that a little bit. I don't know if I'm very good here.
I hear you. Black Lives Matter. And because of many of these protests, many people across the country are starting to understand the real meaning of that term. This is a moment unlike anything we've seen. It's a moment to do things differently, to do them better, and to do them with a real commitment to change. On Friday,
So, what does Black Lives Matter mean again? I thought we were supposed to understand, what does Black Lives Matter mean? He just said, now we know what it means. What does it mean, Jay Inslee? Why wouldn't you tell us? I mean, okay, so if we now understand it, it should be easy to state. Let's just go back here a little bit. I'm sorry.
I hear you. Black Lives Matter. And because of many of these protests, many people across the country are starting to understand the real meaning of that.
What's the real meaning of that? Because you're saying it as if there's some more meaning to Black Lives Matter than the fact that black lives do matter just as much as white, native, Chinese, Japanese, or Mexican, Latino. They do. They do. Not more, not less, but they matter just as much as every life matters. So when you say now we know what the real meaning of Black Lives Matter, what is that real meaning, Jay Inslee? Please expound so we know what you're saying.
Sure. This is a moment unlike anything we've seen. It's a moment to do things differently.
Again, we didn't see anything. Seeing something on TV is not the same as seeing something actually happen. All right? We saw Spokane officers shoot down a local homeless man for being weird and a meth head, unarmed, at his campsite with no shirt on. We seen that. You know, we know that. We know about Otto Zim. We know about Otto Zim, who was a retard that a couple of white chicks got scared of, right? You're right? Because this is why it's not racist, all right? You know, white chicks suck, all right? A couple of prissy white chicks at an ATM saw a mentally disabled person who was going to work walk by, and they got scared. And they called the cops. And the cops killed that dude because he didn't know how to react to a bunch of cops coming at him. Because who would? And he's dead. And we know about that. We saw that. For Jay Inslee to say we've never seen this before, or we've never had, no, we have. It was just with white people, and nobody seems to give a fuck, pardon my language, about when innocent white people get shot down by cops. And it's not per se the cops' fault. That's what they're trained to do. Therefore, it's a problem in the system of training cops, but not a problem of racism. They're not trained to shoot black people. They're trained to shoot if they think their life is in danger, which, sorry, you're no hero in my book. Firefighters don't go, hey, are you a felon? Before they run in to save people. They don't go, hey, we're waiting on the background check before we're going to come in and save you. Firefighters don't do that. I like firefighters. I really dig firefighters. You're no hero if you're trained to protect yourself first. In America. In our cities. That's not protecting. All right? Sorry.
To do them better, and to do them with a real commitment to change. On Friday, I pledged that our state patrol will conduct a review of the investigation of the death of Manny Ellis.
Cops reviewing cops. Not the best idea. I mean, it's better. I mean, it's better than, you know. It's better. It's a start. I don't know the issue. I don't know that particular case. But they all wear badges. They all wear badges. All right. So, and they all have their unions, and their unions make it corrupted. Not the cops. Their union. Their union leaders. Unions suck. I'm not a big. If I was your governor, I would be trying to bust the prison guard union and the police union. Why? Because I don't like unions? No, because unions in their originally were for workers' rights, workers' wages, right? And the tools and the things that they worked on were lumber, coal mines, plumbers, painters, carpenters, crafts, skilled jobs that involved materials. Unions that represent prison guards and cops, these aren't crafts. They're not building something. They're not working with things that are inanimate, you know, that they make something out. They're dealing in humans, in people, right? So when you're dealing with people as if they're material, I don't think that's a good thing. And I know I know the police unions are responsible for a lot of the corrupt philosophy that is now integrated into our police and prison guards.
Tacoma. And it will do an independent investigation of anything that needs investigating.
Sorry. And it will investigate anything that needs investigating because they're investigators. That's what investigators do, and we're going to investigate to make sure that investigators are investigating.
After that review, it has to get to the bottom of every single piece of evidence that has a bearing on that law.
It means that we're going to diddle our feet and say we're still looking, we're still looking, we're still looking, we're still looking until you forget about what we're looking for, and then we're just going to not look anymore.
And it will prepare that report as soon as it can.
Yeah.
We need to make sure this is a fair, just, and thorough examination. Community members.
So, as soon as you're taking resources to examine one incident with more resources than you're allocating to other instances, it's no longer a fair and even use of resources.
Family members deserve this, as we know. And the state deserves it as well. At that point, this information will be forwarded to Bob Ferguson, who, as Attorney General, I will ask him at the appropriate moment to conduct his own decision to determine what.
So, here's the authoritarianism, the dictatorship, the totalitarianism that Jay Inslee is. I will choose when to ask the Secretary General. I will choose this moment. The moment will be mine to choose. No. You probably should have said, I will have the Attorney General investigate this and await his decision because that's his area. I will sit here and say, do your job and let me know what you come to when you come to it, and you let me know. Not, I'll ask him when I think it's the right time, considering what political environment is and when I could best use this as a power grab. That's what he's saying. Well, I'll ask him I'll ask him when this stuff dies down and I need a good nugget to get people all mad at each other again. Then I'll ask him and I'll say something about it only when it suits my power grabbing ways.
If any prosecutorial action should be taken by the Attorney General. Around the state, communities are demanding change at every level of our government.
And the governorship. Yes, they are, sir. They're asking for a change in leadership at the very top. God, you just walked into that one, bro. Walked right into that one.
Leaders cannot just reject racist ideas. They're not asking just for vague promises. We need action.
What did he just do? He just made a bunch of vague promises about changing the...
We need policies, and we need them as rapidly as possible.
We need policies. We just need more policies. We just need more laws. We just need more rules. We just need more policies. We don't need vagueness. We don't need any more vagueness. We need policies. And sometime here in the future, we're not sure when.
In the last 2 weeks, I've been in many discussions with members of the Black Lives Matter.
He's been bowing down and washing people's feet for the last two weeks.
Movement in King County, the Legislators' Black Caucus, the members of Color Caucus, family members of those who lost loved ones, and Tacoma community leaders.
Wait a minute. I thought this was a national problem. I thought this was a statewide problem. So why are you only talking to people to come because something happened there? Something's happened in every city. If you look hard, Jay. If you really wanted to look, what about the nations, right? What's going on in the nation? What about our fellow natives, Native Americans? Are they just chippy? Are they okay with this? Have you talked to them about discrimination and how one way or the other? Have you? You're always giving lip service to us being on their land and the history of of our two cultures. But have you actually sat down with the nations lately and asked, well, is this what's going on? How do you feel about this? Are you sitting down with the white community and saying, white trash America, white trash Washington? Are you guys feeling oppressed? You know, in the trailer courts and in the welfare apartments, right? Like the Catholic charities generously have built 5 or 6 apartment complexes for the low income and homeless and you know, is anybody talking to our poor and homeless in Spokane, which is the second largest city in Washington? Jay, have you talked to any of our people? Any of our poor? Any of our colored people? Any of our natives? Any of our, you know? No, because you don't care about the vote over here. You don't need our vote. You don't want our vote. You don't care. So you're talking to Tacoma, because they're right there, Seattle, Bellevue, Linwood. You're not the governor of the west coast of Washington. You're the governor of the state. Tri-Cities, Wenatchee, Ellensburg, Colville. What about us over here? What about us over here?
And I know that we have to rethink policing and public safety in Washington state.
Another vague statement.
And we've got to make sure that those discussions are not in a vacuum.
Another vague statement.
To that end, I will be convening a diverse group of black leaders and representatives of other marginalized communities, as well as representatives of law enforcement, to develop proposals to submit to the...
So he's saying he doesn't care what white Washington thinks. That's what he's saying. He's saying, well, you know, the white population of Washington doesn't get a say in this because if you're white, you're racist. And we know that's not a true statement. So if white people aren't inherently racist, because we know we're not, but you're not going to let us opine in, then we're suddenly becoming in a marginalized and oppressed culture. How about farmers? Jay? Hey, Jay, how about the farmers in Tri-Cities and Columbia Basin and Wenatchee and Ellensburg? What about the farmers? What do they think, Jay? Because big corporations are just swooping up everything their lifestyle, their culture, their religion, their way of life. What about that oppressed minority, Jay? No. He's not worried about marginalized cultures. He's worried about getting reelected. He's worried about the zeitgeist and what's popular. And so what that means, Black Washington, is he's not going to do anything for you. He's just going to make you feel like he's in your corner, like they've been doing for years. He's been governor for 8 years. Why did it take... Now suddenly he's going to go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize this stuff. You're the leader of the state and you didn't realize that your police officers and the culture that you were a part of was racist until now because it's something that happened in Minneapolis, that happens all the time, all over the world? Sorry, you're not the one. You're not the one, Jay. Even if your heart and corrupted mind is in the right place, you're not the one. You're not the one.
Legislature. My hope is to collaborate with this group to write meaningful legislation in our state.
Meaningful.
Now, there are many...
More laws, more vagueness, more laws, more policy, more laws. More laws. Now, wait a minute. How are you going to enforce more laws? More laws probably means more cops. I mean, if you got more laws, you probably need more people to enforce them. How is that logically in line with Black Lives Matters? Well, we're going to listen to you, and when we listen to you, we're going to make more laws. Because, you know, that's what fixes everything. More laws fix things. More policy fix things. More vague ways of imprisoning people is the right thing to do. What?
Ideas that I know will be considered, but I want to talk about 3 things that certainly need to be action items. First, we need an independent investigative and prosecutorial process for cases of alleged police misconduct.
We already have that, Jay. Those are already in place, Jay. And they haven't done any good up till now. Those institutes created by the state will only favor the state. And if the police is a branch or an arm of the state, then even those new agencies will favor the state and not the black community.
Resulting in death or serious harm to citizens. This would involve the creation of a state investigative unit that
More laws, more police, more wrong think.
is totally separate from any other law enforcement entity geographically in the state.
Okay, so that was a trick word there. Just like in his book, right? The way he misleads people about climate, he's misleading you about. Let's just listen to that one more time so we get the clarity of it.
Need to be action items. First, we need an independent investigative and prosecutorial process for cases of alleged police misconduct resulting in death or serious harm to citizens. This would involve the creation of a state investigative unit that is totally separate from any other law enforcement entity geographically in the state.
So he's not saying it's a separate entity in actuality, only geographically. Their offices won't be in the same building. So, yeah. So what? They're still an arm of the state. They're still employed by the state. They're still employed by the same people the cops are employed by. Therefore, they're part of the same body. And bodies tend to not chop off their own parts. They just tend to not do it. Doesn't make much sense. These are just fancy words for saying we're going to add more police. We're going to make more laws. We're going to imprison more people, including blacks. But they're not going to be cops. This is bad. This is bad. This dude is a puppet. He's a paper doll.
Second, we need to rethink the use of police force and look more broadly at police tactics. Clearly, this means that there has to be a restriction on the use of chokeholds.
Okay. I found this very odd. I found this very, very, very odd. This very weird thing. Guns tend to kill people more than chokeholds, right? It's actually kind of difficult to kill someone with a chokehold. It actually really is. I mean, you got to really choke somebody out for a while to kill them, right? So if a cop uses a chokehold and it kills someone, that fucker had to be, pardon my language, you have to try really hard to choke somebody out long enough to kill him, right? Now, if you happen to choke somebody out who has some asthmatic problems, yeah, it might go quicker. You still got to try, though, right? You still got to try, right? The problem is once a suspect is no longer fighting, they still choke. That's when it becomes dangerous. You're looking at someone who's been chokehold, hogtied, maced, and beat up by the police more times than most. More times than most. I never quit fighting. You chokehold me, I'm going to be fighting every second of it because I know if I don't fight, I'll be choked out. I'll get my hand in there. I'll make sure that I'm fighting until they put me in the car so I don't die. I mean, I'm sorry. These are the truths of my life. I know police brutality. I know I've been assaulted by police more than once. And hey, if you say I had it coming, you're probably right most of the time. I'm not going to try and say I didn't have it coming. I'm not going to say that in certain situations that I totally didn't have it coming. All right? So understand that I understand. Understand, I understand. Do you understand what I'm saying? Understand? that when I say I've been assaulted by police, many of the time it was while being arrested and not being very happy about it. Other times, though, when I'm lying on the floor in my own home, because people were not leaving my home when I asked them to, lied to the cops, said that I was assaulting them, which I wasn't. I'm paraplegic. I was a guy on the floor without his wheelchair assaulting people. But I got him out of my house because I'm kind of forceful that way. It was my house. I lived alone. The party went south. I was telling everybody to leave. People weren't leaving, and so I got a little upset, and then people left. I'm lying on my floor, and the little shithead outside said, "Oh, well, he hit me." Well, you weren't leaving my house. I was telling people to leave my house. The cops come in. I said, "You got a warrant." One jumps back out, blah, blah, blah. We get into it. I get hogtied. They had no right to be in my house. No assault occurred. I got hogtied. They left my wheelchair in my house. They threw me in the back of the cop car. Downtown, I got maced once I got downtown. In Booking, I got maced in Booking. And the charges got thrown out. The charges got thrown out because it was so absurd that they should never have been in my place. I don't sue. I just moved on, because I'm tougher than the average yogi. But they had no right. They had no business coming into my home because a party went south and I was telling people to leave and they didn't want to leave and I made them leave anyways, right? I was well within my rights to do all that. And these cops came into my home, assaulted me, hogtied a paraplegic, threw me in the back of their car, and then maced me when I was in Booking. So that time I didn't have it coming, right? So anyways, I'm not trying to... I've got a unique perspective on the tactics and the use of force that police use almost in every situation. This is why I understand that it isn't as much about race as much as it's about class. This is a class war, all right? It's about different classes of society. This is about second-class citizens, third-class citizens, fourth-class citizens. And I'm telling you, the stamp of a felon, regardless of his race, is the stamp of a slave. It's the new slave stamp. Because if you're a felon, you can't just go rent a place, so you're reduced to begging and trying to find a place to live. Regardless of your qualifications or your talent or skills, you can't find a job that pays you what you're worth. Therefore, you have to take jobs that you're overqualified for, that aren't exploiting your talents, and get paid far less than you ever would simply because you're a felon. Now, are those things sometimes can you overcome those? Sometimes they're just too much, which leads you to being a bad slave, and then you get more stamps of the slave, more felonies because you get sick of being underpaid and underappreciated for the talents you do have, and you just get stamped more and more. And then if you're just a really bad slave, they throw you in a cage and feed you some scraps, and it's called gladiator school. I have a perspective about the problems of our society in Washington State that few have. That being said, this talk about our police force across the country, disbanding, that's insane. That's insanity. It's not broken like that. And with this attitude, whatever you created to replace this police, which has its problems, it's going to be way, way worse. Way worse. This is what they don't understand. They don't understand. They're going to get rid of the police force, who are not bad people. There's just problems with the mentality of their training. They are trained in a manner that creates problems for them and us. It's in the training, dummy. It's in the union, dummy. It's not the individual cops who are out there trying their best to do what they're told, do what they're supposed. If they're told how to do things and that way is wrong, they're trying to live up to what they think is being told to them. It's a losing situation for cops. This is why I need to be governor, because I don't want the cops to be disbanded. I don't want there to be more worse cops than there are now, that's for sure. I don't want more stupid laws that are just going to put more black people in prison because that's what they want to do. Their end goal is to put more black people, more white people, more people in prison so that they can have more cops, so they can have more prison guards, so they can have more jobs, so they can get more money from the cop unions and the guard unions. That's their goal. Don't listen to this man. He's corrupted. I don't know. Maybe back when he got out of UW and he was down there in Yakima and he was practicing his law for about 7 years or something before he got into politics, before he became a career politician. Maybe his heart and mind were in the right place. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. This man was trying to be a president not 6 months ago, and when he couldn't get that, he's like, well, I'll just stick with Washington. I've got to be in charge of something. I'm telling you, as your governor, I will take these things absolutely seriously, but I in no way would disband the police. There's no way I would listen to only one part of my state. I'd want to listen to the black community. I'd want to listen to the Native community. I'd want to listen to our immigrant community. I want to listen to our farmers and our loggers and our miners. There's more to this state than the black communities. They're a great part of it. But there's more to this state than Tacoma and Olympia and the West Coast. There's more to this state than what Jay Inslee is wanting to govern. But he's ignoring that. He's putting one populace of our citizenry over another, and that's wrong altogether. We need to be lifted up as a state, together. It's not about, look what they're doing to him, or look what they're doing to me. It's, what are they doing to us? Look at what they're doing to us, all of us as a state. That is the attitude that needs to be taken. That is the philosophy. How can we lift us up, not this community, not that community, but how can we all come together and then rise together?
Third, we need to create a legally enforceable obligation that law enforcement officers must report misconduct by their fellow officers.
Okay. Oh my God. He just said he wants to require police officers to tell on other police officers. This is horrible. This is wrong. This is not how you fix things. Getting people to tell on each other doesn't fix things. Look what I did with the having more snitches caused the drug addiction problem to go away. Having more snitches, because they're all over the place. Encouraging people who already have a troubled life not to be accountable for their actions and drug use, but to snitch on somebody so they don't have to do time. Has that fixed the drug problem here in Washington? Has that fixed the drug problem anywhere in America? We just need more snitches. If we just got more people telling on more people, that would fix things. That is a corrupted philosophy. Absolutely not a good philosophy. Having cops tell on cops is not the way to fix things. Having citizens tell on citizens is not the way you fix things. Nazi Germany, 1938. 1 out of 3 citizens was a Nazi informant, a paid informant, a snitch. Where did that society go? Stalin's Germany, 1 out of 4 people were a KGB informant. What happened to that society? There's no virtue in telling your citizens to do anything except live their own life and pay attention to their own problems. There's no virtue in telling them to spy on their neighbors. There's no virtue in that. And it's a corrupted philosophy, and these people don't even understand how corrupted they are.
Now we know that much more is needed. And what I mean by that is that the tenor of these moments gives us an opportunity, I believe, to take...
gives us an opportunity, I believe, to grab more power and become more totalitarian.
Additional steps to the larger efforts in addition to police misconduct issues.
That was a nothing burger. Who writes these things? He just talked about vague promises, right? Listen to this last sentence, all right? What does this last sentence mean?
enforcement entity geographically in the state. Second, we need to rethink the use of police force and look more broadly at police tactics. Clearly, this means that there has to be a restriction on the use of chokeholds.
Yep, that'll fix it. We need to look at them damn chokeholds.
Third, we need to create a legally enforceable obligation that law enforcement officers must report misconduct by their fellow officer.
A legally enforceable, what? Something that, so we need to be able to legally enforce forcing cops to tell on each other, but if cops don't tell on each other, how will we know they're not telling on each other? And how do we legally enforce somebody to tell on somebody if that person tells on somebody and suddenly they don't have backup in a situation where they need backup? They don't understand how that policy will ruin the police force, and it'll ruin lives. Because I tell you what, if I got a little out of hand with a known troublemaking drug addict crook because he spit in my face, and I got a little mad, and then this guy turns me in because of it, and I hear his number on the radio, man, I might not want to endanger lives getting there. I might not want to go too fast and maybe run over an innocent person to back this guy up because, it's safety. I don't want to endanger innocence, and maybe nobody shows up when this guy really needs him to because he was forced to tell on people, and that never goes well. They don't understand what they're doing to our society with these snitch laws and these get out of your own trouble by telling on somebody else, and don't pay attention to your own problems. Pay attention to your neighbors, because if you tell on your neighbor, we'll overlook yours. This is not good for society.
Now, we know that much more is needed. And what I mean by that is that the tenor of these moments gives us an opportunity, I believe, to take additional steps to the larger efforts in addition to police misconduct issues.
What did he just say? He didn't say anything there. He didn't say anything there. None of that is any. It's all just so vague. One more time, if you'll just please, one more time.
Now, we know that much more is needed. And what I mean by that is that the tenor of these moments gives us an opportunity, I believe, to take additional steps to the larger efforts in addition to police misconduct issues.
What does that mean? What does that mean? What is he saying? Like, it's an opportunity to make more rules or laws, or we don't know what that means. That could mean almost, the problem with that is that could mean almost anything. The problem with that statement is it could mean almost anything, and so therefore you might think it meant this, and this person over here, well, I thought he meant that, and this person, well, I thought he meant that. Well, it really didn't mean anything because it could mean anything.
Police misconduct may be the byproduct of institutional racism.
Nope, it's not a byproduct of institutional racism. It's a byproduct of institutional bad practice. It's a byproduct of military-style training in our police force, and we don't want a military police force as our police. It's not institutional racism as much as it's institutional Gestapo totalitarian training to shoot first, protect yourself first, and kill everybody else.
But fixing that alone will not solve the underlying problems that bedevil us.
Bedevil us.
Of inequity in education.
Oh my God. That's a key phrase. That means socialism. Every time he says inequity here, he means more socialism. More socialism. More socialism. Watch. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Just
Now, we know that much more is needed. And what I mean by that is that the tenor of these moments gives us an opportunity, I believe, to take additional steps to the larger efforts in addition to police misconduct issues. Police misconduct may be the byproduct of institutional racism, but fixing that alone will not solve the underlying problems that bedevil us, of inequity in education, and inequity in healthcare, in economic inequities that defy imagination. All of these things have to be on the table for action, and I look forward to working with legislators in the community to make sure that that happens.
3 times he said, we need more socialism. We need more socialism. We need more socialism. Inequity here, inequity there, inequity there. That's a key phrase, a dog whistle for socialism. Communism. More communism than socialism, because socialism doesn't mean what you think it means. Most people don't understand. Socialism only means state-owned industry. That's what socialism. Communism is a whole nother beast. Equity is communism. Every time they say equity, they're promoting communism. Which, hey, if we're in China, that might be a good thing. But we're not.
We know that people in authority have a responsibility both to listen and to take action. So we're bringing people to the table to be proactive in these discussions. Because
No. He's bringing certain people, only people he thinks are worthy to be at that discussion, to that discussion. He's not bringing just people, he's not just taking all comers like our society. It's not an open forum. He's decided, well, we're going to have black leaders from Tacoma, we're going to have black leaders from this neighborhood, we're going to have these black leaders here, and the black leaders are going to decide how our police changes, which they should be a part of that. They should not be the only ones a part of that.
we know that the responsibility to change things ultimately rests on those who actually have authority to actually take action.
No. No, goddamn. Oh, I'm so sorry. What he just, again, he's totalitarianism. This is not American, what he's saying.
We know that people in authority have a responsibility both to listen and to take action. So we're bringing people to the table to be proactive in these discussions, because we know that the responsibility to change things ultimately rests on those who actually have authority to actually take action.
No! That's wrong. That's so... The responsibility lies on the individuals of America to stand up for their beliefs, for their values, and not rely on some figurehead to tell us what's right and wrong. That is such corrupted philosophy. That's a totalitarianist. That's a dictatorship. That's saying, look, I'm in authority, so I'm the one responsible for the changes that need to be made. So you listen to me because I know what I'm doing, because you aren't smart enough to decide how to run your own communities in the way they should be ran. So I'm going to disband. I'm going to change the police because I'm going to talk to these people that I like versus these people that I don't. And we're going to decide how your community lives because we're an authority and we're the ones that are responsible for change. That is wrong. Change lies in the individual. You can't undo racism by outlawing racism. You can only undo racism by community, by family, by the individual, by exposing people to other cultures, to other races is how you defeat racism. Because racism is a problem of ignorance. It's a problem of indoctrination. It's not a problem of law breaking. All right? This is the problem. It's not a crime to be racist. It's not a crime to hold racist views. No matter how vulgar that seems to you, no matter how unproductive or sick that thought might be to you, it's not against the law to hold racist beliefs. So therefore, by outlawing racist beliefs, you're outlawing thoughts. You're outlawing a certain type of thinking, which you can't do. even if you do outlaw it. Racism starts with the individual. Racism is defeated through education, through exposure, not through laws, not through totalitarianism. It's this guy is so corrupt, he doesn't even know it. Power corrupts. Total power, absolute power corrupts absolutely. This man just told you, I'm the authority. Change is my responsibility, not yours. That's not how this works. That's not how America works. That's not how a healthy society works. And that is why you have to vote for me come November, because at the very least, I will be about what is the best way to fix that which is broken, not demolish everything we've worked. We built this. Washington's a great place to live. Do we have problems? Yes. But it's up to the people, it's up to the individuals to understand that they have a role, that the individuals have a role in helping defeat racism culturally. It's in the individual, it's in the teachings, it's in the attitudes, it's in the indoctrination of I know I don't seem like the perfect candidate. I'm not. Because there's no such thing as a perfect candidate. There's no such thing as the perfect person. We all have flaws. We all have lived experiences that at some moments we've regretted the decisions and choices we've made. The reason you should vote for me is because of my extensive history with the police force, with my diverse experience with the black community and the white community and the Native Americans. Spokane I cherish Washington history between whether it's the loggers, the farmers, the African American culture. If I put a list of my favorite artists, many of them are, black rappers. I love hardcore rap. It's my whatever. Juice WRLD, man, that's a sad story. But I also love Garth Brooks, Elvis Presley. I also love My Neighbor. I also, something no one's talking about in this whole conversation is the Christian population, is the Muslim population, is the Catholic population. How come these groups, one might consider more oppressed than the other, aren't being asked about their opinion on policing? Should we just forget about religion? Now, I'm not saying, I understand separation of state and religion. Church and state are different. That doesn't mean you don't consult the churches. Doesn't mean you don't ask the churches, which are our citizens as a group, how do you feel? What is your take? Do you have some input as a part of our society into what's going on right now? Because their voices, as a church, as a citizen, matters. Muslim, Catholic, Buddhist, whatever their religion happens to be, as a group, their voice should be heard, as it should be heard as an individual as well. My name's Cameron Vesey. I'm running for governor because I have to do something. I have to try. And I just tell you what, hold my beer. I got this.